Yes, good morning, Einstein class. Oh, always good to see you. Okay, so let's start out. I'm going to give you a little bit of review. Something, we're going to have many games. Okay, good. So, first of all, this is something that we do back in North America, in Canada especially, when we're reviewing for a test. We make something like this, which is a review sheet or a summary sheet of everything that we learned. And so for the last 6 weeks we learned about the cell. And when we're talking about the cell, we talk about the animal cell. How many parts are in the animal cell that we study? 5 parts. 5 parts. And those 5 parts, each part helps the cell stay alive. It helps it to live. And each part has a special job or a special function. Something that it has to do for the cell. What does the cell membrane do? Cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. That's right, and it holds it there. It's like a big bag. Cytoplasm. What's a cytoplasm? Oh, yeah, it's like a jelly inside. It holds everything in place. And if you turn the cell upside down, do you want all the parts to fall to the bottom?
Yes.
No, you don't want them to all fall to the bottom. You want them to stay where they are. Because if they all fell, then they would bump into each other and maybe break or something. All right, nucleus. Controls everything. What's inside? It has the DNA. What part of your body is it like? The brain, right? Because it tells all the other parts of your body what to do. And then vacuole. What's the vacuole do? Water, food, and waste. Good. And then we have this other part. It's kind of important. Big science word. Mitochondrion. Jerry. Mitochondrion. It makes energy, that's right. And we've made a little word box for the mitochondrion. Because when a mitochondrion makes energy, what do we call that? With big science word again. Cell respiration. It's why we breathe in and out. Animals respire, but cells, they want oxygen and CO2 to go in and out of their body too. And so we call it cell respiration. Now, these 5 parts that we talked about, are those same 5 parts? Do plant cells have those same 5 parts?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely they do. They have the same 5 parts. But do they have more or less parts as well? More parts. What are the other 2 parts that a plant cell has? Cell wall and chloroplast. What does that cell wall do? Okay, so it's like taking our bag, our cell bag, putting it inside a box. It gives it shape, and it makes it strong. It helps it so you can put cell upon cell, so you can make a tree stand really tall. Yes? Sound good? All right. What about the chloroplast? What color would it be?
Green.
Green. Does it make the plant green?
No.
Yeah, mostly. The leaves are green. Okay. So the chloroplast, it has a special job too. A special job. That chloroplast, what does that chloroplast do?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Really big science word. Photo for light, synthesis for making. So making with light, that's right. Chloroplast, the photosynthesis, happens in the chloroplast. What is that chloroplast filled with? Colorful chlorophyll, awesome. And what does it make, that chlorophyll? When it gets the stuff it needs. Glucose and oxygen, or food. And this is probably the most important thing on our planet. Why? Without it, we'll die. We get food from it. Everything we eat, we want the glucose. And all animals like ourselves, we need oxygen in order to breathe. We want to breathe that in. Why do we want to breathe that oxygen in? For cell respiration. To make?
Energy.
Good, okay. Now, we took a look at 7 parts in total, and then we took a look at these 2 things in the word boxes, cell respiration and photosynthesis. Okay? For those 2 things, they're both really super important for all living things. Without energy, without cell respiration, without energy, what would happen to our cells? They will die, absolutely. And if we don't have photosynthesis in plants, we have no glucose and no oxygen, what would happen? So that's why we looked at these 2 things, because they're super important for all life on our planet. Okay, so now let's take a look. Once we know these things, photosynthesis, we have to sort of break it down and say, how does it work? And then, you know, the science questions, how does it work? How can we change it? And how can we see it in everyday life? So here we have our equation or our formula for photosynthesis. And you can think of it simply. What do plants need in order to grow? Sunlight, absolutely. Sunlight plus carbon dioxide and water. You have to water your plant. And so what does it make? What does photosynthesis make? Glucose and oxygen, exactly. Remember that glucose and oxygen in these equations always go together. Okay? So once we have that glucose and oxygen, it works its way around inside the cell and finds its way into the mitochondrion. What does the mitochondrion want to make?
Energy.
Energy. So this glucose and this oxygen inside the mitochondrion are going to make what?
Energy.
And water. So the CO2, what do we do with that CO2? Get rid of it how? We breathe it out. A whole bunch of CO2 floats in the air. So do we want that CO2? What do we think of that CO2? What do we call it? Garbage or waste. We don't want it, we just want to get it out. But plants like that CO2, but that's okay. So now that we've looked at the things that we need in order to have photosynthesis and the things that we need for cell respiration, we have these nice formulas. Glucose plus oxygen makes energy, CO2 and H2O. If we were to compare these 2 equations, what would you say about them? Opposite, that's right. Glucose and oxygen always go together. Say that for me. Glucose
and oxygen always go together.
There. So when you see this, because this is like a test question, if we block certain parts out and you have to fill them in, remember that glucose and oxygen go together and the other side gets really easy. Okay? Alright, once we have these things and we know what plants need for photosynthesis and what all cells need for cell respiration, we learned a couple of different words that talk about how things move inside the cell. Diffusion and osmosis. So how does gases like CO2 and oxygen move in and out of the cell?
Cell membrane. Osmosis.
Diffusion. Now, diffusion, gases and some liquids move in and out of the cell by diffusion. Now, but that's how the gases get in and out, but we have a special word for just water. Osmosis for water. Osmosis for water. Now, osmosis talks about water moving how? Tell me about osmosis. High concentration to low concentration, just like diffusion, but one more thing. Through a membrane, exactly. It has to go through a cell. That's the special thing about water, because water is so important inside the cells that we have a special word where water goes into the cell through the cell membrane. When it goes through the cell membrane, then we have osmosis. Think of a grape, or a gummy bear, or an egg, our bouncy egg, or a raisin, absolutely. In order to get inside the raisin, the water has to go through the cell membrane. Okay, this is my review sheet. Like I said, we do this all the time back in Canada. And you guys, as you get up into high school and middle school and university, you will start, and it's a good practice to make your own. because it helps you map out all of the stuff that we've learned. Once you do that, it makes it simple. All you have, 7 parts. 2 processes, photosynthesis and cell respiration. A couple of formulas or equations, and then osmosis and diffusion. Can I get you to open up your science notebooks, please? I want you, we're going to have you do one note. This is the only writing you're going to do today. I want you to take a page just like this. So you have a nice half page. Turn it sideways and copy this note down. Just like it is. So put the word boxes there. In the middle, put plant and animal cell, and then put 2 word boxes on the side. Our equation and our little talk about osmosis. Yes, please. The reason we're doing this, because it's so good to learn how to make your own summary notes, and when you do, you'll get smarter. This will make you smarter. And this is something, making your own as you go through school, just before a test, will make you do better. I promise. As soon as we all get that, it's right there. As soon as we all get that,